What if I told you, one single battle just reminded everyone why they fell in love with Game of Thrones in the first place? After a disappointing second season, expectations for House of the Dragon Season 3 were incredibly high. Fans wanted something bigger, darker, and far more emotional. And after watching the premiere, I honestly believe this episode delivered almost everything people had been waiting for. From breathtaking action and subtle storytelling, to emotional character moments, and one devastating death that could completely reshape the future of Westeros. This episode felt like the series had finally found its identity again. So today, let's break down exactly why this premiere worked so well. Warning, this discussion contains major spoilers. The first thing that stood out to me was how carefully the episode planted important story elements long before they paid off. When the episode begins, we repeatedly return to Rhaena as she struggles to build a connection with Sheepstealer. At first, those scenes almost feel disconnected from everything else. The main conflict is moving forward. Other characters are preparing for war. Yet the episode keeps cutting back to her. Initially, it almost seems unnecessary, but by the time the Battle of the Gullet reaches its climax, those earlier moments suddenly become incredibly important. The writers weren't wasting screen time. They were quietly preparing us for what was about to happen. Rhaena clearly believed that simply claiming a dragon would be enough. She had confidence, she had determination, but what she didn't have was experience. There's a massive difference between riding a dragon and controlling one during the chaos of war. The battle exposes that difference in the harshest way possible. Instead of becoming an advantage for Team Black, Sheepstealer turns into another unpredictable danger. The dragon attacks without control, creating confusion across the battlefield. Friend and foe suddenly become equally vulnerable. That unpredictability makes every second feel even more intense. What I really appreciated was how the episode challenged one of the biggest assumptions in this world. Normally, owning a dragon instantly makes someone appear unstoppable. But this episode proves something completely different. A dragon without discipline can become just as dangerous to its own side. Power means very little if you can't control it. That lesson is demonstrated in one of the most painful ways imaginable. Jace enters the battle believing he's ready. He's brave, he's determined, and he genuinely wants to protect his family. But bravery alone doesn't win wars. Experience matters. Decision-making matters. Keeping your focus under pressure matters. And during this battle, every small mistake carries enormous consequences. The distraction created during the fighting forces Jace into an impossible situation. His dragon becomes trapped, the battlefield grows more chaotic, and suddenly survival becomes far more important than victory. One of the strongest emotional moments arrives when Jace desperately tries to encourage his dragon. You can feel the fear. You can feel the desperation. Neither rider nor dragon wants to give up. But every attempt to escape only makes the situation worse. The dragon's cries are heartbreaking. It's no longer just a fantasy creature fighting in a battle. It feels like a living companion desperately trying to survive. That emotional connection makes the entire sequence incredibly powerful. Then comes the moment that changes everything. Instead of giving Jace an exaggerated heroic sacrifice, the episode chooses realism. His final moments arrive quickly, violently, and without mercy. There's no long farewell speech. No dramatic last stand. Only the brutal reality of war. Arrows continue striking one after another, leaving him completely helpless. What makes the scene even darker is the silence surrounding it. The battle briefly slows. The ocean feels strangely calm. And in that quiet moment, his enemies celebrate while his life slips away. That contrast makes the sequence unforgettable. I actually think this approach makes the death even stronger. In many fantasy stories, important characters receive glorious endings. Here, the episode reminds us that bloodlines don't guarantee survival. Being connected to the Iron Throne doesn't make anyone invincible. Even someone carrying the blood of old Valyria can disappear within seconds. That's exactly what made early Game of Thrones so shocking. Nobody was protected simply because they were important. Although we haven't yet seen everyone's reaction, it's obvious this death will create enormous consequences moving forward. The emotional impact alone will likely reshape several characters. Grief, anger, revenge, and political decisions will almost certainly be influenced by what happened here. Sometimes one death changes an entire war. This feels like one of those moments. Another aspect that impressed me throughout the episode was its use of subtle visual storytelling. Instead of explaining everything through dialogue, the episode trusts viewers to notice small details. One particular scene involving Demon and his soldiers stood out immediately. During the sequence, we briefly see a lion being killed. At first, it almost feels like simple background action. Nothing about the moment seems especially important. But once later events unfold, the symbolism becomes much clearer. The lion has always represented House Lannister. Looking back, that brief visual now feels like an early hint toward the tragedy involving the Lannisters later in the episode. It's a small detail, but details like this reward viewers who pay close attention. And that's exactly the kind of storytelling that makes repeat viewings even better. Another storyline that quietly caught my attention involved the dragon seeds. At first, their conversations almost seem casual. Nothing feels especially important, but if you listen carefully, the dialogue is planting the seeds for future conflict. One character begins questioning whether titles alone are enough. Another starts believing that owning a dragon should automatically earn greater respect. More power, more land, and a higher place in society. Those conversations might sound harmless now, but they reveal something much more dangerous. Ambition. And in the world of Westeros, unchecked ambition almost always leads to betrayal. The episode never directly tells us what's coming. Instead, it allows the audience to slowly recognize the warning signs. That's exactly how good foreshadowing should work. One of the biggest improvements over the previous season is the scale of the storytelling. Season 2 often felt limited. Many scenes stayed inside castles. Political conversations repeated themselves, and sometimes it felt like the larger war wasn't actually moving forward. This premiere changes that immediately. From the opening minutes, the world feels alive again. We travel across different regions, different battlefronts, different political situations, and every storyline feels connected to the same growing conflict. Instead of following only one group, the episode constantly reminds us that this war is affecting the entire continent. That larger perspective is something many fans were hoping to see return. We spend time with military leaders preparing for war. We witness important political decisions. Powerful families continue positioning themselves for the battles ahead. Some characters are trying to protect their legacy. Others are desperately trying to survive. And a few are already planning revenge. Every storyline pushes the overall narrative forward. Nothing feels like filler. That's one of the reasons this episode reminded me of peak Game of Thrones. The original series always felt massive because several different stories were unfolding at the same time. Different kingdoms, different rulers, different motivations, yet somehow, everything slowly connected together. This premiere captures that same feeling surprisingly well. Of course, the biggest attraction is the Battle of the Gullet itself. And visually, it's absolutely stunning. Before the fighting even begins, the calm sea creates an incredible sense of tension. Hundreds of ships wait silently, almost as if everyone knows what's about to happen. Then, everything erupts. Fire fills the sky. Dragons dive through smoke. Ships begin collapsing into the ocean. Explosions spread across the battlefield. Every direction feels dangerous. What impressed me most wasn't just the visual effects. It was how the battle constantly changed. Instead of becoming repetitive, the action keeps evolving. Close combat aboard ships, dragon attacks from above, burning wreckage everywhere, commanders making split-second decisions. The episode constantly finds new ways to keep the audience engaged. One moment I especially enjoyed involved Khalees navigating through the narrow waters. For a brief moment, the battle slows down. Instead of relying on brute force, strategy becomes the focus. That short break actually makes the surrounding chaos feel even more intense once the fighting returns. It's excellent pacing. The final images of the battle are unforgettable. Smoke still covers the sea. Destroyed ships drift across the water. Flames continue burning long after the fighting ends. Bodies float silently between the wreckage. The battlefield itself tells the story. Without saying a single word, the episode shows the true cost of war. Victory doesn't feel glorious. It feels tragic. When the screen finally fades to black, it genuinely feels like we've just watched a season finale instead of a premiere. That's probably the biggest compliment I can give this episode. If this is only the beginning, the rest of the season could become something truly special. The performances deserve just as much praise. Several actors deliver outstanding work, but one performance stood above the rest for me. Khalees Velaryon completely owned this episode. His dialogue is strong, but it's actually his facial expressions that make every scene so powerful. Without speaking, you can see regret, responsibility, fear, determination, and the enormous weight he's carrying. That's incredibly difficult acting, and it works beautifully. His relationship with his family adds another emotional layer. You can sense the mistakes he's made in the past. The guilt hasn't disappeared. It's still affecting every decision he makes. That emotional history gives the character much more depth. Another standout comes from the episode's main antagonist. The character carries an intimidating confidence from the very first appearance. Every decision feels calculated. Every conversation increases the tension. Instead of becoming a one-dimensional villain, the performance creates someone audiences genuinely love to hate. That's exactly what memorable antagonists should accomplish. The confrontation eventually reaches the payoff many viewers were waiting for. When that conflict finally ends, it feels earned, not because it happens unexpectedly, but because the episode carefully builds toward it from the very beginning. Good storytelling isn't always about shocking twists. Sometimes it's about delivering satisfying conclusions. Overall, this premiere succeeds because it balances everything incredibly well. Large-scale battles, political intrigue, emotional character moments, foreshadowing, outstanding performances, beautiful cinematography, and genuine consequences. Every major element works together. Most importantly, the episode brings back something many fans felt had been missing. Uncertainty. Nobody feels completely safe. Every decision matters. Every battle changes the story. And every victory comes with a painful cost. That's exactly what made this universe so compelling in the first place. If the remaining episodes can maintain this level of writing, character development, and emotional impact, then House of the Dragon Season 3 has the potential to become the strongest season of the series so far. This premiere wasn't just entertaining. It reminded viewers why they became invested in this world from the very beginning. Now the only question is, can the rest of the season live up to such an incredible start? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more House of the Dragon analysis.